fish is all cut out, and I've done all of the edges so that they're not too sharp and hopefully wouldn't cut you. I've sort of smooshed them and wriggled them, and I also made sure that the tail was cut differently to the other fish. I didn't want the fish to be identical, which was really good in terms of cheat cutting, because I didn't worry about where I was cutting the inside lines. So it's a great result. And you can see how, because I haven't cut the grout lines off in terms of the pattern, this is going to be slightly larger and slightly longer than the original pattern or cartoon. So the next part of this process is the double part, when we talk about double indirect. If this was indirect, these pieces would be glued to this mesh, and then you would cut the mesh out, put the adhesive on your backer, and then plonk the whole lot in there. I don't want mesh on this. For starters, you can see through it, and you can see it on the glass. That won't go away. So do be careful when you're using mesh in your works and the transparency of your glass. So the double indirect means I'm going to tape this and remove it from this sticky mesh, which is quite easy. So I've got my lovely big fat tube of tape, and I just start by gluing it at this end, and very carefully, because you don't want the pieces to move too much, which they shouldn't do because they're on the sticky mesh, and just get good coverage all the way around. Don't worry too much about where your tape is going, because we're going to cut the excess off when we get to the gluing bit. When we've covered it all with our sticky tape, there are going to be a couple of weak areas, one being the tail. So we might want to put a few extra strength holding pieces of tape so it doesn't completely fall apart. If it does fall apart, nothing's lost because it's still all together. Then you can wriggle around, because we may need to change or wriggle the tail around once we get it onto the final pattern. Because we are doing mosaics with stained glass, it's very forgiving. It doesn't have to be exact like it is when you are doing stained glass work. Right, I think I've got it pretty well all covered with my sticky tape. So I want to do an extra holding piece across the tail here, and I might do it also across the fins. So I might go from fin to fin. And yes, I do lots of sticky tape. This is another thing that I find really helpful, this whole concept for my wobbly old hands. So if you have weak wrists or a little arthritis or a bit of a wobbly old hand, this might be just the perfect method for you. So we know we've got it all nicely tucked down. The next bit is to peel it off. Sticky mesh. It'll all come off quite well, just like when I was showing you how to do the butterfly for Gypsy Rose. Let me just move this board out of the way, and you can see it's all holding quite well here, ready for the gluing process. So I shall cut all this excess stuff off. You don't want to watch me cut that off. And then the next part of the process will be placing it on the table and deciding where we're going to glue it.